Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Brett Marsh from Spartan Metals. Brett, congratulations. Your most recent news release, I want to read this to everyone, says Spartan Metals acquires the largest tungsten resource in the United States. That sounds exciting. Where do we start?
Yeah, yeah, we're really excited about it. Victorio is something we've had our eye on for quite some time, and to put it into the portfolio now and give us the largest resource base in the United States for tungsten is really exciting.
Well, you don't have just tungsten, you have molybdenum, correct?
Molybdenum, yeah, that's right. So it's Victorio is a bimetal project, and so we get really nice economics off of it. At least we hope.
And everybody's talking about tungsten. In fact, we will be undoubtedly making tungsten one of our top 5 critical minerals that we're now watching at the Critical Minerals Institute. Can you tell us why tungsten is so hot right now?
It's an element it's in high demand in the United States, essentially because we haven't had production of it since 2015 rather, and it's really something that's in high demand because of our military usage and other technological usage.
And of course, what we would really like to know is how did you manage to get so far ahead of the curve? Because your trading symbol actually is the periodic table symbol for tungsten W. How did you know?
Yeah, well, we did that on purpose, right? And so as we put the company together, we were really thoughtful and really putting our strategy together. And when we really went forward with the Eagle project, we knew that it had as its foundation tungsten, and so we really wanted to make sure that the company was distinguished in that manner. And so as we've continued to add new projects like Victorio, we wanted to make sure we had a critical metal. Uh, Breadth and scope, but have a foundation that was firmly rooted in tungsten. And so we wanted to make sure that was something that we look at every day and remind ourselves that tungsten is the most important piece of our business.
And your most important project is the Eagle project, is that correct?
Today, we would classify our most important project as a Victorio project, and really because of its size and scale and its relative advancement that it has over some other projects here in the United States, where it actually has a 43101 compliant PEA that was done in 2018 that we'll be updating here with current economics in 2026.
So if I'm following this story properly, because you're relatively new to the market, can you kind of give us the
Mhm.
timeline? Because, it was just 2 months ago we were talking about the Eagle project, which also has rubidium. Let me
Yeah,
mispronounce that as well, and silver.
you get that.
Can
Yeah.
you give us a bit of an update on the timeline on how fast you're actually moving for those of you out there going, we're looking
Yeah.
for a junior that's moving quickly, achieving objectives, etc.
Yeah, it's it's been a whirlwind. So we actually started trading publicly as Spartan Metals in August of 2005, and so we immediately kicked off a capital raise right after that, and immediately started putting that into the ground or onto the ground rather at Eagle, where we were actually able to what we think is expand the scope of the resource a little bit. So it gives us a lot of exploration targets and potential there. At the same time, when we formed the company, I wanted to understand where Eagle and Tungstonia in particular stood in relation to other projects in the United States. And so we really started to take a look at it. And one of the other outliers, in addition to the high grade that we had at Eagle, was the size that we had in Victorio. And so we really started, in earnest in October of last year to really try to understand who owned that project and what would it take for us to actually put that into the portfolio. And so we had been working with the ownership team, Victoria, since October of last year, and we're finally able to bring that together, in just a couple of weeks ago. So it's really been a pedal to the metal time for us. So
And for those of you out there that may not have heard clearly, you said 2025, correct? Is when you listed?
that's correct. We started August of 2025.
And something, of course, that most investor news readers are going to notice is what an amazing capital structure you have. Can you give our audience some updates, please?
Yes, for sure. We're extremely tightly held, and so we've got about just over 41.5 million shares issued and outstanding, and just over 50 million fully diluted. And in that ownership, over 44% of that is actually owned by strong insiders and strategic shareholders like Ridgeline Minerals, who we acquired the Eagle project from originally to get the project going. And so we really got good alignment with all the shareholders, and we're really excited about the structure to build a tungsten-focused critical metal company based here in the United States.
And forgive me, Brett, I don't feel like you've answered my question properly about how you knew about tungsten. Okay, what is your
Okay.
background that you were in your kitchen with your family and you said, I know where the next gold rush in the critical mineral sector is going to be, tungsten? How did you know?
Well, I wish I was that clairvoyant, but really the focus was for us to be present within the critical mineral space. And as we put our project portfolio together early on before we even listed Spartan, we were looking at projects, and it became apparent to me that tungsten was actually very unique metal in the critical metal space. And it was something where I'd had a background previously in critical metals, working for a lithium company, and really understood the value of a lot of these critical metals to the U.S. military and to the U.S. economy in general. And so when we started to take a deeper dive into what the Eagle Project and Tungstonia in particular presented and offered to that story, it became apparent that tungsten was going to be the focus of the company, and we really wanted to build everything around that because it was such a unique asset that we found. But we also really loved the potential for tungsten within the critical metal space, again, because it has really no substitutes at this point.
Well, you may not be a clairvoyant, but you certainly seem to be an excellent headhunter. Let's talk about how you've managed to put such an extraordinary team together. I was reading the bio about your Vice President of Exploration, Rebecca Ball, for instance. Can you tell us more about the team you're building? Because you're moving very quickly.
Yeah, so Rebecca is really one of the best geologists, as I mentioned, that I've worked with in the past, and she's really was instrumental in helping us advance a previous project. So I knew when we got Spartan going that I wanted to have her perspective and her work ethic behind the project and get it in here. And so as we continue to grow, we're going to be looking for personnel that I know that have a good track record of delivering in their respective fields. And so as we build out Victorio, for example, I'm going to need people who are very well versed in advancing projects through the permitting and also just through the engineering study phases. And I have some of those folks already in mind to talk to bring on board. And so it's definitely a situation where I'm looking back through my network and those that I've had success with in the past and trying to convince them and bring them onto the team.
So, what should we as shareholders be looking forward to in the next quarter?
In the next quarter, we're really going to be looking to do a couple of things. First, we're going to be advancing the PEA and resource models at Victoria to get those updated and kind of get that knowledge into the pipeline. At the same time, we're going to be also looking at establishing our permitting platform or needs to get any drilling that we're going to need going forward at Victoria moving. We'll also be engaging with other strategic partners as well as the U.S. government in particular to try to see what that they're willing to bring to the table for Victoria. But then also we're going to be doing some field work at Eagle while some of our more non-technical types of activities are happening at Victoria. We'll be looking to get a drilling program going here, perhaps here within the beginning and middle of spring. So at Tungstonia, so we can understand and get some information on some of those anomalies that we identified at the end of last year. So again, it's one of those situations for us where we're going to be moving fast and trying to deliver as much to the market as we said we're going to do. So it's definitely a fun time for us. We're looking forward to it.
And you will be speaking at the upcoming Critical Minerals Institute Summit 5. Do you know what you'll be speaking about? Have you picked your theme yet?
I see, still to be determined.
Okay, well, how about I suggest how I picked tungsten as the next critical mineral hit. I'm sure everyone will be very interested to hear how you did that. And for everybody out there trying to keep up with Spartan Metals news flow, please go to the following website. Thank you, Brett, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy.